When it comes to dealing with trigger point pain, people tend to fall into one of two categories. The first, ooh, that's a little sore. Or the second, as for me, babe, well, it depends on the day. Hey everyone, you're watching a physio named Jonah. That's this guy. Where today we're talking about trigger points. The goal of today's video is to talk about what a trigger point is, what causes them, and what we can do about them. So let's kick it off. What is a trigger point? Well, it has nothing to do with firearms. But these arms are fire! As opposed to trigger points, you may be more familiar with the term muscle knots, a name that gives a pretty strong visualization of what that muscle feels like. Chances are that you've felt one at some point in your life and know the feeling when you have one. Muscle knots are particularly sore spots in the muscle that feel hard or elevated to the touch. In fact, being able to feel this hardened or elevated region is one way we can tell a trigger point is just that. But allow me to make something clear. Your muscles have not become tied or crossed or formed a knot when this is happening. So what's going on? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Currently, we don't have a perfect scientific explanation for what's going on in that hardened patch of muscle in the middle. What we know is that with a trigger point, the whole muscle that the trigger point is being held in is in a tightened or contracted state. And then there's this one hardened part or nodule within the muscle itself. The whole muscle is tight and there's one hardened part. That's the knot from before. There's also been research to show that blood flow is restricted to these hardened parts of the muscle. When blood flow is restricted to an area, this can make it more sensitive to pain or lower the threshold to create pain. There are also increased levels of inflammatory mediators or chemicals that are released when the body is dealing with an injury that are present in this area and can also be linked to the pain. The muscle knot, or the trigger point, is a particularly jumpy, bouncy, or reactive part of muscle, and this is part of what makes it a trigger point. What I mean by jumpy is that when a pressure is applied to it, the muscle bounces or moves around under your finger. This is also referred to as a local twitch response, and can feel as though the muscle is trying to weasel itself away from your fingers when you press on it. Something else we know about trigger points is that they're often associated with something called referred pain. What is referred pain? This means that when you put pressure on the trigger point itself, you might feel pain in that area, but you may also feel it somewhere else, and that other area may seem unrelated. This can be a pretty disorienting sensation when it happens, and can kind of feel like, here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Come here, kitty. For example, a trigger point in the neck may create pain somewhere in the head and reproduce headache symptoms when you press on it. These referral pains often exist in patterns, and if you're a dork like me, these patterns are pretty interesting. If this is something you're interested in me talking more about, let me know in the comments section below this video and we can take a look at it in a future video. Trigger points can form for a lot of reasons. They can be linked to consistent low-level muscle contractions, which often happen when we spend a lot of time in one prolonged position. This is where posture becomes pretty important. Trigger points can also develop following direct trauma to a muscle. Think about whiplash in a motor vehicle accident. Exercising significantly harder than you're used to, or asking a lot more of the muscle than is normally asked of it, is also something that can create trigger points within the muscle. In addition, it can also be from repeated patterns of movement or a way that you're moving over and over, potentially again asking more of the muscle than it wants to give, or using the muscle in a suboptimal way. I mean, you could see a physio. All joking aside, there are techniques that physios and other rehab professionals can do beyond what's reasonable to do at home. Right now though, let's talk about what you can do at home. Quite often, the self-treatment of trigger points at home isn't rocket science. If you've ever had one, you probably know a little bit about what makes them feel better, and that's pressure over top of it. Putting sustained pressure onto that ropey or cord-like section of the muscle, the knot, can often help to resolve the trigger point or the muscle knot. This is where self-myofascial release tools like lacrosse balls, foam rollers, and the like can be helpful for applying this pressure to the muscle knot or the trigger point. However, you want to be careful that you're not pushing on these things too hard, too often, and that things are actually getting better when you're pressing on. So now you may be asking, if I can push on at home and it goes away, am I totally done? Am I in the clear? Maybe. But you may end up in this process of trigger point appears, you push on it, releases, and it continues. Quite often, these muscles are trigger points. Developing within a muscle give us an idea that something around the area may not be moving the way we want it to, or we may be holding a sustained posture that our body doesn't like. This is additionally where physiotherapists and other rehab professionals can be really helpful. Working with someone who can look at how your body is moving and functioning can help prevent these trigger points from redeveloping, or can be more effective than just pushing it down yourself at home. Again, this is in addition to a greater amount of techniques at their disposal versus just the self-pressure being applied at home. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching today's video. I truly appreciate the support. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel to help other viewers on YouTube find these videos. In the comments section below, please let me know if there's anything else you'd like to hear physiotherapists talk about. Other than that, everybody, move your body, have a laugh today, and I will see you at the next video.